This is Linda Feld, for those of you who are on the webinar, and it's my very, very great pleasure today to introduce Nadia and Nastia from Ukraine. So many of you who are part of the PPA donated funds to help bring these two wonderful women here to our PPA conference. And at this time, they're going to share a little bit of the story of Sasha, who many of you already know about, and his unfortunate demise earlier this year. And at this time, I would just like to turn it over to Nadia, and we do have two translators here. So you will hear Nadia's voice, and that will be in Russian, and then we have translators who will translate it into English for you. So please just stand by, and the next voice you hear will be Nadia.
Добрый день.
Good afternoon.
Мы очень рады присутствовать на этой конференции, так как на Украине и в России аналогичных конференций не проводят по причине того, что о данном заболевании неизвестно ничего.
We are very happy to be present at this conference due to the fact that in Ukraine and Russia there are no analytical conferences like this one about periodic paralysis, and that almost nothing is known about this disease.
Хотя мы думаем, что больных с периодическим параличем много.
However, we believe that there are many people affected by this disease.
Александр Бодитенко успел создать группу в соцсетях под названием «Периодический паралич», в которой уже состоит 47 человек. Некоторые из них больные, остальные родственники больных и врачи.
Alexander Batienko, the husband of Nadia, was able to create a social network group called Periodic Paralysis. There are 47 members of this group. Some of them are patients, and others are relatives and doctors.
Мы приехали сюда, чтобы получить от вас информационную помощь и поддержку в создании нашей пациентской организации для больных с периодическим параличем в Украине.
We came to the United States to receive informational support and assistance to support our patient organization of those suffering from periodic paralysis in Ukraine.
Цель создания пациентской организации – это объединение больных в Украине и России, помогать им проходить обследование, чтобы получать правильный диагноз.
The purpose of this organization is to unite individuals in Russia and Ukraine in order for them to receive the proper diagnosis and treatment in order to correctly identify their disease.
Планируем добиться от государства признания этого заболевания и беспроблемную постановку группы инвалидности с этим заболеванием.
We plan to achieve from the Ukrainian government recognition of this disease as a legitimate status of disability.
Сотрудничество с квалифицированными врачами, которые способны оказать помощь больным в критических ситуациях.
We want to work with qualified doctors who are able to offer medical assistance to those ill with this disease.
А также хотим, чтобы все больные знали про вашу ассоциацию и бесплатный ДНК-тест.
We also want everyone affected to know about your association and the service of free DNA testing.
На данный момент люди, больные периодическим параличем, в нашей стране не могут вести полноценный образ жизни, не способны работать, учиться, и мало кто из них может создать семью из-за постоянных мышечных слабостей, полных параличей.
At this present moment, people suffering with periodic paralysis in the Ukraine cannot live a normal life. They cannot work, receive an education, or even build a family due to constant muscle weakness and paralysis.
Для достижения этой цели мы посетили конференцию по редким заболеваниям в Киеве, столице Украины, в этом году.
In order to fulfill our further educational goals about this disease, we attended a rare disease conference in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, this year.
Мы беседовали с юристами и представителями разных пациентских организаций и представителями по защите прав пациента.
We spoke to lawyers and representatives of other patient organizations and those who defend patient rights.
Надя рассказала им свою историю и про ошибки, которые сделали врачи, потому что не знали про это заболевание ничего.
Nadia told them her story and the mistakes the doctors made due to their lack of knowledge on this disease.
Все они сказали, что возможно создать организацию по периодическому параличу, чтобы найти людей с этим заболеванием и вести статистику по периодическому параличу в Украине. Они обещали нам помочь в прессе и на телевидении.
The lawyers said it is possible to start an organization to find patients with this disease and to conduct research on periodic paralysis in Ukraine. They promised media support.
В нашей стране очень много проблем, связанных с этим заболеванием.
In our country, there are a lot of problems associated with this disease.
Основные из них
The main one
– отсутствие врачей, квалифицированных в данном заболевании, и как результат постановка неправильного диагноза пациенту и неправильного лечения.
especially a lack of medical knowledge on the doctor's part to diagnose and treat this disease. As a result, there is a wrong diagnosis of the patient and improper treatment.
В Украине калий доступный только в таблетках. А для того, чтобы приобрести калий в порошке, необходимо приобрести рецепт врача, который отказывается выдавать, потому что не уверен в правильности постановки диагноза.
The second reason is that in Ukraine, potassium is only available in tablets. In order to obtain potassium in a powder form, you must receive a prescription, which the doctors refuse to give because they are unsure of the validity of the diagnosis.
Дорогостоящий ДНК-тест проводят, исследуя стандартную мутацию заболевания. Но это неверно, так как их очень много. Если ДНК-тест не подтверждает данное заболевание, то врачи 100% исключают это заболевание.
A third reason is the expensive DNA test, and the DNA tests only for one standard mutation of the gene which causes periodic paralysis. This is inaccurate because there are many genes that can cause this disease. So if the DNA test does not confirm the disease as prescribed by one significant gene, the doctors exclude the possibility of periodic paralysis completely.
Отсутствие правильного лечения и профилактики данного заболевания приводит к негативным последствиям.
This causes improper treatment of patients, which is counterproductive and harmful, and the patient receives treatment at their own risk.
И все попытки врачей помочь больным в критических ситуациях приводят только к ухудшению состояния.
Every attempt of doctors to help treat patients in critical situations only results in worse circumstances.
По этой причине больные с периодическим параличом чаще всего во время приступа находятся дома.
By this reason, all patients with periodic paralysis, especially during an attack, remain at home as long as possible in order to avoid malpractice by doctors.
Но есть доктор Павел Белецкий, невропатолог, который наблюдал моего мужа и всячески ему помогал в диагностике данного заболевания.
However, there is a doctor named Pavel Beletsky, a neurologist who treated Nadia's husband, Alexander, and helped in the diagnosis of the periodic paralysis.
Этот доктор готов принимать активное участие в жизнедеятельности нашей будущей организации и сотрудничать по обмену опытом в данном заболевании с вашей ассоциацией.
This doctor is ready to participate actively in the membership of our future organization and to work in cooperation with your association.
Мы очень хотим и верим, что способны улучшить качество жизни больных, оказывая им помощь и поддержку нашей пациентской организации.
We truly believe that we can improve the lives of those affected by this disease, providing support through our organization.
Ваша информация, поддержка нам очень поможет в достижении поставленной цели, и у нас все получится.
Your informational assistance and research will greatly help us achieve our goals successfully, and we will succeed.
Мы хотим поблагодарить Джейкоб Левит, Линда Фельд за предоставленную возможность быть здесь, а также всех членов ППА, и всех людей, которые пожертвовали деньги нам на данную поездку. Спасибо вам за внимание. Если есть вопросы, пожалуйста, задавайте.
We want to thank Jacob Levit, Linda Field for this amazing opportunity, and all those members of the Periodic Paralysis Association who so generously donated the funds for our trip to the United States. Thank you for your attention. Please feel free to ask questions.
Thank you, Nadia, for such a wonderful talk. I just want to, well, before I mention that, someone got it wrong in the Rosen. This is like freaking me out, the sun out there. And they made this, they put the AC on like full blast. So if you need a blanket, raise your hand, we will come and blanket you. And they're addressing that temperature issue. If you have to step out, that's fine. Nadia, I just want to say that a couple of things. First of all, how brave it is for you guys to come here your first time to the United States and speak in front of this big audience after such a terrible thing that happened in your life. And so that's number one, that you should be commended. But more importantly, for the people who are still with us, that you're taking such a terrible thing that happened to you and transforming it into something that's very useful and productive and will better the lives of the people to come. So thank you for that as well. And we at the PPA and the whole PPA community are 100% behind your efforts and will help you every step of the way. You know, we talk about periodic paralysis as a nuisance, as fine, I can't live my quality of life, so instead of going to work, I have to be on disability. Okay, fine. But this disease, not often, thankfully not often, but this disease kills people. And we can't be light about it. And that means that doctors have to take us seriously, and we have to treat reasonably aggressively. And we have to be very careful about our triggers and our treatments. But it's not just like a benign disease. There are people in the world who lose their lives from this. Sometimes they were managed perfectly and it just was going to happen, and sometimes it's from mismanagement. But anyway, I think it's something that PPA has to do. We've tried to quantify that. We had a little difficulty, but I think, you know, maybe Grace and I can work on something, and maybe with Deb we'll try to get something going where we quantify how many people lost their lives attributable to periodic paralysis. It's very difficult to tease that out. If someone passes away, well, and they pass away from an arrhythmia, well, how do you know it wasn't just they had a heart attack, and they would have had a heart attack, periodic paralysis, or no periodic paralysis? But then sometimes, you know, it's relatively clear. So we need to quantify that, and we need to have literature about that. So I think you get taken more seriously when the consequences of the diagnosis are more serious. So I hope people have some questions or comments or something, but the floor is open.
Can I just ask, what is the population of the Ukraine? Just give us a sense. I don't know. 47 million. Okay. And any idea how many neurologists there are? I mean, it's probably a question. No. Not many.
We're not sure. There's only few people who are familiar with the disease.
Sorry.
There are only few doctors that are familiar with the disease.
Are you getting at maybe, you know, targeting the group of neurologists in the Ukraine or whatnot?
I just wanted to get an idea of how many people we're potentially looking at having this disease in the Ukraine, and just sort of the sense of the size of the issue, really. That's quite a few people.
Yeah. I mean, the U.S. is 300 million, right? So.
In their organization, there are currently 47 members. Some of them are affected by the disease, some of them are relatives or doctors, but not a lot of people have access to media, so there must be a lot of people who are affected by the disease, they just don't know.
I think that's what we discovered, you know, initially, that when back in 1998, we had like 30 people, 50 people, and kind of been communicating, and now on the PPA back-end website, we have something like 1,800 entries of registrants. Maybe 200 of those are like duplicates, but it's fair to say 1,500 people are registered. So that's because information is available now to, to a much broader audience. And as technology advances and as time goes on, we're going to reach out to more and more people, of course.
Hi. I just want to say that I'm very sorry for your loss. I was speaking with Alexander because my grandfather was born in the Ukraine, and so I want to let you know that if there is a genetic tracing back to that, that I will make sure to keep you informed of that and let you know. And I'm also wondering if they did find a genetic link for Alexander.
My grandfather was born in the Ukraine too. That's a funny coincidence.
That currently they don't know the exact genetic mutation of it. The results are with their doctor, and that they have the hypo version of periodic paralysis.
Great. Okay. Well, so if there's no more questions, I guess we can move on, and Mickey will have a little extra time to have some words with us. So thank you guys so much for coming.